their contact information. That's reasonable. You understand? In River Oaks, you provide the name and a pre-approval letter before you make the appointment. I mean, a lot of people interview people before they even let them on the property. We can't be that arrogant in our mindset. But I mean, they're there because the seller is allowing them to come to their home and enter their environment in exchange for something else. And so we shouldn't feel guilty about asking people to sign in. The seller would ask that you sign in. The seller could ask that you take off your shoes. The seller could ask that you put on these masks. I mean, we don't know what the seller wants to do. But I think in order to come to the house, the seller would like for them to sign in. And I think we ought to set up little tables on the front porch and have people sign in. And if they don't sign in, I'm sorry, the seller would rather that you not come into their home. It's not an open house for publicity seekers. It's open house in exchange for feedback. And let's don't feel guilty about it. I mean, I really would like for us to migrate more of our entryway to the front porch area and have that kind of conversation with people before they come on in. And if they're just not willing to sign in, the seller probably doesn't need that person to come through there. I mean, if they're not willing to provide us information, there's inherent risk, I think. Why would they not be willing to do that?
How would you say that?
Feedback is the exchange for your entry, okay?
How would you say that?
Okay, the seller requests that you'll cover it later. Okay, so that would be my point there. They're going to cover this more. I'm just going to cover some highlights, whatever. That's some things I just want to make sure that we cover. They're going to go over how to be prepared, but I mean, I'm going to go over quickly so they can re-emphasize it because you're going to hear it 3 times. I need for you to be prepared. I need for you to preview the house before you get there, know something about the house. I need for you to run the comp and know both the history and the active competition, which is way more important to me than the previous comps. I want to know what else is for sale in Woodland Heights that's 3 bedrooms, what else is for sale in that price range with a master down, what else is for sale, that's built that time period. Tell me something else that if the competition is way more important. Scouting. Very few people in the NFL, they don't focus on last week's game too much. They focus on what they're doing next Sunday and what is the competition. We must focus more on competition than we should on comps. What else would this person get if they didn't get this? Study the archive. Study the alternatives if they don't buy this house. Have an answer, why is the seller selling? Don't be surprised when someone asks you, why is the seller selling? They love the neighborhood, they're moving around the corner, they've been transferred, they're moved industries, whatever. But know an answer because you're going to get asked that and you can't get caught red-handed without an answer. Make sure the open houses are posted by Wednesday on har.com. Check for accuracy because it's not always accurate. Make sure the signs are up by Friday. On that day, make sure that you have a sign-up sheet, the MLS sheet, the flyers, balloons, waters, and that you know some other resource, something that person coming in wouldn't expect you to have. The latest school report, the latest crime statistics from the constable program, upcoming restaurants that are opening in the area, bus routes to Metro, parks, improvements, capital improvements.
Take all my good stuff here.
You're going to re-emphasize it. They've been saying it, you have to say it 3 times, so I'm just saying it first time so you can re-emphasize it. Know something they don't have. And then on the directionals, think like a buyer. Where are they coming from? They're coming from another open house. They're not necessarily all coming up Studewood, so we don't need to put the sign on Studewood to go to 205 Bayland. Look and see what else is open. If they're coming from Highland or Woodland, off of Helen or Meshaw, think like the buyer. You can pull up your little heart app and see where all the other open houses are. Activity breeds activity. Think kind of like that. At the open house, engage, engage, engage. Speak with knowledge. You're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. You've got to be able to ask specific questions. Are you in the market today? Will you be in the market in the future? What are you looking for? Do you have any specific feedback for the sellers? What do you like best about this house? Many people are in the negative field. I hear, feedback all the time. Today's feedback is the 15 things I don't like about the house. And I got it. I've learned that that's just what we're going to get. Now I want to hear the 15 things you like about it. There's got to be something that you like about it. Something intrigued them to come to the open house. There was a reason out of the thousands that were open that day that they chose this one. Maybe they were driving by. That's location. What is it about that location that you really like? They have a friend living in the next block. Their daughter lived in the next block. They like eating at the next block. Why is it that brought them here in the first thing? So ask for what are those positive attributes. Be grateful. Part of your interview is thank you for coming by. The seller thanks you. I appreciate your opportunity. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the opportunity to engage with you. And I'm telling you, the key to open houses, I don't know how to stress it, get there early, stay there late. The typical realtor turns off the lights at 4:45. The guy that comes in at 5 to 5 feels like they need to rush through there. If you'll just stay till 5:30, you will get all the serious people are looking at 5:30. Okay? The looky-loos look at 3:30 after lunch and brunch, and the serious people are still at it. And if they're still going at 5:30, they're on a mission for a house. They're not just looking for ideas. So seriously, I would delay the open houses as much as possible. I believe more in 3 to 5 because I want to stay till 5:30 or 6 because I think you'll see who's serious in the marketplace. You'll either see the first guy or the last guy is the one that really is in the marketplace or whatever.
3:30 to 5:30.
3:30 to 5:30 is a great time.
I used to do 2:30 to 4:30.
And stay late. Yeah, if you tell them 4:30 and you stay late too, it's another very good deal there. And then you've got to follow up. You got to pick up your directional signs. You got to provide us the feedback. You got to follow up with these people, and you've got to do something with this knowledge that you just had there. So those were my comments about what I wanted you to stress there. So they have a whole little presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Wanda and Kathleen now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we have just a little humor.
Not gonna have it, nope.
All right, I'll send you guys a little open house humor after this. So we're just gonna hit some of the, again, we'll hit some of the high points. We're gonna dive into a bit more detail, a few of those things. Some of them are fairly basic, but it might be nice reminders. Some of the others might be tips, that either Kathleen and I have used over the years, or even things that we've gotten from newer agents that are having success. Like I learned a tip on Sunday from Becky that I thought was really very inventive. So we're going to cover various different things. So one of them, and some of that kind of speaks to part at the beginning, was our success stories. Becky and Mark have been. How long have you guys been at this now?
About a year.
About a year. They've already got, between them, several million. Mark spent his first $1 million. What did you do? The first $1 million sale?
Yeah, the people walked in at the end of December, beginning of December, and they came to the house because their daughter found it on Har and dragged her parents to the open house, and they walked in and fell in love with it, and 30 days later we're at the closing table. And it was $1.030 million.
So if you're having a tough time pulling yourself away from lunch, or you really want to go hang out at the pool, or whatever else, you might just remember that when you're doing one of your next open houses. The other thing to think about is that open house is an opportunity maybe to sell that house, maybe to get that buyer, but it might be all kinds of other things. One of the most successful open houses I ever did was one of my listings. I never sold that house. I almost sold it twice, but I never sold it. But because of that open house, the neighbors across the street came. I got their listing. From their listing, I got 3 more buyers. 3 of those buyers then sold their houses with me. 2 of those buyers have referred me, and one of them has leased her house with me about 5 times. So I never sold that house on Cheshire. But I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat every time I think about it. So, there's all kinds of reasons to do it. So open houses will get you buyers, it gets you listings, it gets you builders, it gets you referrals. And I often say that your expectation kind of going into open houses is, to use analogies, it's kind of like baseball. You have to get up to bat in order to ever be able to make a hit, or hit a home run, or hit on base, or even get an RBI. So it's that, and what I used to do was I used to plan my open houses and take one weekend off a month. I might do 3 of them. I might do 2 open houses and then take a break, and then do 2 and then take a break, you know, and then cycle it through that way. So that way I knew if I was doing, I might do 3 if the month worked out that way. But it helped me know that I was going to get a little break from that. So it energized me going in there. One year when I sat down and looked at all my things, I wanted to actually increase how much money I was going to make the next year. And I started thinking about whether I wanted to do more transactions or whether I wanted to do maybe about the same number of transactions but have a higher average sale. And I decided, of course, that I wanted to have a higher average sale. And so one of the ways I did that was to actually just pick open houses that were at a higher income. So instead of doing $300,000 and $400,000 houses, I started doing, I wasn't doing anything else than $700,000 houses. So there's ways you can think about that. Plan your open houses, give some thought to it. It may not necessarily be just whatever pops up as available, but have a plan. And if you have a plan like that, and you want to share it with me, or share it with Bill's team, or whatever else, and say, my goal is to do open houses in this price range, or in this particular area, or maybe it's this particular home style, whatever it may be, give some thought to that, and don't hesitate to share that plan with us so that we have a better idea of that when we're putting those things together too.
Basically, what she's saying is be strategic about what you're doing with open houses. Plan your open house attack, basically.
Right. And if you also decide you want to jump that price range up, maybe whether you're a newer agent or whether it's a price range that you haven't done that much in, don't hesitate to partner with an agent. Don't hesitate to partner with me or with Kathleen. You might say, hey, I want to do an open house, and I'm not as comfortable with it. Would you be willing to do it with me on Sunday?
When did you do that?
And especially
Because
since
that's
in
what I
my
said.
role right now, I'm not really actively looking for any new
Oh, that's great.
clients. I'm taking referrals in
That's
the
perfect.
business. So if I have a listing, if you want to do a partner with it, then let me know. I'll be happy to do that. I did that with Tara on my 24th Street in the past. My whole thing was I'm here to sell the house. She was there to pick up buyers, so it worked beautifully. And how we tag team on all that. So don't hesitate to do that too. Bill brought up an excellent point, speaking of being strategic, and that is anticipate questions that we're going to ask. A number of you guys have done open houses, so we get some of those things. But some we can make a list of them, but things like what school is it zoned to? What's it near? Is it near the bike and hike trail? Is it near restaurants? Is it near anything? And if it's near bike and hike trails, when I've done listings like when I used to have a listing over on Julian, it backed up to the 24-hour Spanish flower restaurant.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went and got chips and salsa and a menu. That restaurant had some of the best chicken soup I've ever had in my life. When I got sick, that's where I wanted chicken soup from. So I told people out there. And sure enough, the woman who bought it had grown up with her family, had owned a business kind of like that, and to her, that was great. That whole noise factor, activity or whatever else, that was one of the most attractive things for her. She came in that open house and saw those things and looked out over the back and saw that she could just walk through there. That was just, she was in. That's another thing, is to think about taking something that may be perceived as a negative and flip it around as a positive. There was a listing I had in Oak Forest many years ago that the first 2 agents that had had foundation issues, and the seller had fixed them. But everybody who was in the 2 agents who had it before were scared of those foundation things. So, but what I did was I came in and asked a bunch of questions. I said, okay, once you do the foundation work, how much of the work does it have on it? What have you done in the house since then? And she had painted the house and done various other things, and then she moved out of town. And that house, I hadn't anything done on it in the 6 or 9 months it had been listed with other agents. So when people walked in there, I'm like, here's the foundation reports. The reason why it was done because it was a rental and the pipes leaked and it doesn't have anything to do with the ground, with the trees, with this or that or whatever else. And walk around here, she's painted it, she hadn't touched it in 9 months. You can't find a single crack. She hasn't been in here with any spackle or any other kinds of things that you want to talk about. So I took what other people were hiding and plopped it right out there in front of them. and talked about how it was a positive thing. So that's something to think about in your listing, but think about that from an open house thing too. If you ever say, I don't want to do that because it backs up to the Spanish flower, it might
One
work.
of my favorite quotes from Bill is, somebody's gonna love that. Like when
It's a train.
the very first open house I ever did, there was a keg party going on next door, and I called Bill and said, there's a keg party going on next door. Somebody is gonna love that.
Exactly. So you gotta flip it around. You gotta think about how do I make this something positive.
Once I had a listing that it was the craziest floor plan, and they had taken the existing bedroom and added on a bathroom, and then the master bedroom, and they took out the toilet in the master bedroom. Because the other existing bathroom had a toilet and it was around the corner. And I thought, I could never sell that house. I took it because it wasn't expired. And you know what? Somebody loved it. And I got it sold it to two guys that I got in an open house and said, well, this is a feature. You don't have an extra toilet to clean, and they loved it. So,
Which also speaks to a very important reason you want to go and preview the house before you actually do the open house, so that you can start spinning
Yes.
your brain around or post something on Facebook and go, all right, you know, Lordy, I need a little help here. I've got a master bath without a toilet. How about spinning? I'm doing an open house on Sunday. So it's another reason to preview. But also, you know, you might make a list of things that you can, if you're doing one of the listings for Bill or for me or for Star or for anyone, you might come up with some questions that you know buyers ask all the time, like what kind of floors are these? How old is the, you know, you've got some things that the seller's associate is going to tell you, but other things like what kind of floors are these? Have the windows been replaced? And, you know, is the heat, gas, or electric? Some things that you may not obviously be able to see, and some things that you might, but just kind of anticipate some of those things. And if you get a series of, you know, questions, you've got buyers seem to walk into your open houses, and they're asking you the same kind of questions every time, make sure you know that before they walk in the door, so that you don't have to worry about trying to text somebody while you're standing in the open house, hoping that they can get back on you in time to tell the buyer.
But that's also the best opening of all. I'll get back to you now.
That, I'm just,
After it-
making
I've got
that
another
up
one,
for you.
you know?
You
We
wanted
love
to
that.
ask you a question you don't know, even if you know it. So, you know, they'll ask me the width of the wall with the insulation, and I might know, but before I just make something up, say, I want to verify this with the seller, and I'll get back with you. That's your window to get back with them.
It is
all
absolutely
day.
what
That-
it is.
Then you'll be able to tell how engaged they really are the next day.
Yes, yes, and it's a, kind of speaks to that a bit in, we'll get into this a little bit in detail in just a minute, but it gives them, it shows that you're knowledgeable. And I've often said that I don't know can be an acceptable answer as long as you follow it up with, I'll get back with you, and then you do. Because a lot of people will say, I don't know, they'll make it up, and it'll be obvious that they're making it up, and then you really lose, and they don't get back to them, and they don't get back to them on a timely basis. Speaking of like doing previews, be also aware of the inventories we'll spoke to just to get what else can they get. They walk into, I mean, Becky had somebody walk into my white oak listing that she held open on Sunday. It's listed at 610. They're looking at 400. I mean, you wonder why the heck they're there, but she got their information and she's going to be providing information to them. So you may already, you know, having doing business in the area, you may already know. She already started asking them some questions like, what are you willing to give up that you have in here? You know, are you willing to give up a bathroom? Are you willing to have a smaller lot? Are you willing to live in this area over here or live in? She already knew what $400,000 was going to buy you in this area, and it wasn't going to be what they were standing in. So, so it helps to do the previews and be aware of the inventory.
And what I used to do is I had a 3, 3, and 3 rule. So I knew 3 listings that were higher, 3 listings that were the same price, and 3 listings that were lower. So I could say to any buyer, oh, this might not be right by this, that, but no, this might not work for you, but I know something that will. And I could speak to the inventory. And I would also get an opportunity to show them that listing. So it was, I appeared knowledgeable and I got them as a potential client. So, you know, you have to know your inventory.
And the schools can be kind of a good thing like that too. If you're hosting an open house that zones a love and they really want to go to Harvard or Travis, you might want to know what price range, and if there's a house available, they'll get them into Harvard or Travis. The other thing that something I used to do is if I had, like a listing that was close to a bike and hike trail, like White Oak is close to that, close to a bike and hike trail or close to a park, or zone to Garden Oaks Montessori Elementary, because some people were like, what's Montessori? Then I would have information about that, but often I would only have like 1 or 2 little sheets there, and that would be part of the reason I would get them. I'm like, and what I would often do is say, hey, if you, when you signed in, if you didn't have a chance to put your email address on there, if you would do that, I would email that to you. I would just kind of assume that I was saying that they had. But I would just say, you know, if you had it, you know, if you didn't have a chance to put your email address on there, if you do it, and if you want to write on there, send me bike and hike trail, I'll send you the bike and hike trail, you know, or I'll send you this kind of thing. So it lets them, and those, it speaks partly to Bill's point of have something that's kind of different. If you think, you know, one of the coolest new restaurants in town is right down the street, then, you know, have that continue. What are you saying?
I was just saying that, you know, because of that school thing we went to last year, someone goes to Love, but they want to go, I said, you know, if your kid can take a test and test in the 1%, I said, there's always a possibility that that can happen. So, you know, you can live in this neighborhood and it doesn't prohibit you from your kid not going to Travis. He just needs to be a brilliant kid.
Yeah, knowing about the schools was always my entree because I had a kid in school and I could speak to what was going on in HISD as well as I knew about a few other private schools and so. But I could always, if they came in with kids, I could usually get at least contact information.
And I'm,
What's that? The HISD
Yes.
services.
And, you know, White Oak is now zoned to Travis Elementary, and that's just with the upcoming school year. We had a map there at the thing, I talked about that in various different things. That's something that people didn't necessarily know about if we're promoting that. But I also mentioned, and I'm sorry that you have your hand raised, I forget. You know, I mentioned that we do that school tour. If somebody comes in there and says something about that, they'll say something, oh, it's still to Love, I don't really like Love. And I'll say something about, hey, you know what, I learned when we were at the school tour that the parents loved Love so much that they wouldn't let ISD close it down. And if you haven't had a chance to go over there and tour and walk and sit there with those principals and have a conversation with them and tour that school, maybe you should consider doing so. And if you want me to help you set that up, I'm happy to do it once again. Give me your email address or your contact information, and I can help you set that up. Susan was first hand.
Yeah. Do we have a document or a page here, or is there a website I can go on to have a map in?
HISDschoolfinder.com.
No, well, yeah, I know that one. I'm talking about the hike and bike trail.
Oh, the hiking bike trail.
But wouldn't that be a good thing for all of us if we're doing it in the Heights, to have access and have that document at the open house?
I'll pick up more maps tonight. I'm going to an event. Then I saw Mary last night at the Westheimer Corridor Study. I'm going to the east.
So now one of those to take one and then get their email address so you can send them a link to it. They could probably go find that link themselves, but if you tell them that you can do that, then that can be helpful.
Okay, but I really would like to know where it is. I mean, I kind of know there's one over here.
I'm not saying
That's
that.
the same one.
I know, it just runs around.
Right.
It's over there
Right.
down 16th, I know that.
But you know what, the best way is to find out how the bike and hike trail works.
There you go.
Get on the bike and hike trail. I did all the way down to St. Charles and Oak Forest and find out.
What's the website, girls? What's the website?
Well,
You go to HoustonBikePlan.org. It'll get you there also.
Hand me a question.
Oh, I was just gonna say they started this year with HISD doing an open house for all the schools. It's like once or twice a month, and it's like 2 Fridays a month. And then they send out I've got a kid in school, so they send out a thing saying all the schools are open at 1 o'clock on. They just started this year. So anyway, that's just showing. I'd have to get the exact day,
But it's
Those are the
continual
kinds
now.
of things that I would use to follow up after the initial contact of an open house. If I would find out something like that, then, if I had contacted somebody, hey, thanks for coming to the open house, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, I would follow up with them again or whatever else, and I would find out something like that, I would send it to them and say, hey, I know you're interested in schools in this area. By the way, Travis and Love are having their open houses on this day, and Harvard and, Helps are having theirs open on this day, and if you want to go take a look at Reagan, I would send them those kinds of things, because every other agent is going to just keep asking them for the business. This is a way for you, showing them that you're informed and you're knowledgeable, and you're just trying to give them something, and you're not necessarily always trying to push them, because the pushy, my style is a bit more kind of conversational, trying to be a little bit engaging, but not really a pushy kind of thing. When they walk in the house, I'm not trying to necessarily sell them the house, I'm just trying to engage the conversation. I've practiced several different things. I've even gone out and Googled things that just say conversation starter. Some of the things that you find from how to start a conversation at a party very well may work within your open house. I've even asked them, if they come in and there's a big football game on, sometimes I'll have the game on so somebody can take a look at it. But I might say, hey, thanks for coming in here. I know you had a choice to go watch a football game. They're going to do one or two things. They're going to be, yeah, thanks for having the game on, or I hate football. And that's why I'm here. I don't care which one it is. I'm going to figure out a way to have a conversation with them after that. So the conversation starters can be,
My hook with the schools also was the Vanguard program. And if you don't know about Magnet and Vanguard, you should. And I would say, oh, you don't know about Vanguard? Well, it's a private school within the HISD. So let me send you information. And they were always interested.
and the dual language certainly speaks to that, because a lot of people don't have a clue what that is.
And IB, my daughter was in IB at Walter when they had that, and I would reference that too. So if you know about just the public schools, great, but if you know something that they might not know about Vanguard or Magnet or about IB or some other programs, you need to bone up on them and then have a way to send them the information.
In Oak Forest, I also use the various different events that they have there, whether it's movie night in the park, or all days of summer, or the tour of all 18 sections of it, of the thing. I use those as opportunities to follow the people too and make them aware of it. Like, I know you're interested, you were considering maybe looking in Oak Forest, here's an opportunity maybe to go meet some of the people and check out an event. If they have kids, they certainly go to movie nights, because most of the movies are a little more oriented that way. I love going to animated films, so that's really awesome too. So, part of the success of open houses is certainly planning it in advance. It's not, something that you decide on Friday afternoon or Saturday or whatever else. It is planning it in advance. We try to do a pretty good job of sending those things out on Tuesday to make you aware of what those are. Kind of pick those, try to pick those things, and then start trying to build the excitement. If you're comfortable with social media, you can, promote it on your business page if you have it, promote it on your personal page. I've even seen some, there's an agency in Austin that likes to go in and they set up they go set up an event for an open house and invite people to that event from their page for the open houses that they're doing. And what it allows sometimes, one of the things advantages they say they get out of it is that people will check in to that open house. Well, guess what? You just got their contact information. You just got their contact information. You just got a way to contact them via Facebook if they check in. What do you think?
So I'm sorry, you set up a Facebook,
They have like a Facebook, because they have a business page, they go set up open houses as an event. If somebody goes to that open house as an event and they check in, you now have their contact. You now know who they are, what their profile is, and you can send them some information. and thank them for thank them for it. And then you could use that as an opportunity to talk about it, talk about, I am gonna have bike and hike trail maps over here, or this is zone, this, or the school zone, the school designations and boundaries have changed. If you want the map, I'm gonna have it at the open house. You can start building part of that momentum in a way that you might be able to reach some people and people may share that with their friends. Hey, here's that house I was telling you about. They're having an open house and they have this other thing going on. So it's another way of reaching some folks if you feel comfortable with that. If you don't feel comfortable with that, come to me, because I do feel comfortable with it. I'm happy to help you. And I always welcome the neighbors and everything else, because you never can tell. They may want to list their house with you. They may want to invite their, they may want to help pick their neighbor by sending somebody else or whatever that you have.
Also, if you have a lot of people at your open house, it looks better.
It does.
And if you get everybody talking, like about the neighborhood, people stay longer. And if they stay longer, they kind of bond more with the property, so.
Jerry Jaggers actually used to do an incredible job early on, and I don't know if he said he may still do it, but he used to create his open houses were almost a party.
That's what I try to do.
He
That's
had
definitely
wine
what I
and
try-
cheese and various other things in there, and people stayed, and it gave him more opportunity to have deeper, more longer conversations with them, for them to see how the house fit from a entertainment standpoint, and those kind of things. So.
Is it okay for us to have wine and cheese?
Yeah, absolutely.
And certainly at this time of year, I always have water. I have
it at the front door and I have it iced.
Yep.
Not in the fridge, not cold, not sitting on the counter. And because I want that dripping cold water, so that they can say, oh, I needed this. Because initially, right off the bat, they know that you're taking care of them. So I think cold water at the door is a must in June and through.
You said it's almost always going to be good.
Right, okay.
So I have a house in Richmond, where all this flooding's happening. And so I chose not to do an open house like I just did 2, and then all that water's gonna happen. So I thought, well, that's a bad time to do it. But I mean, I've got champagne, white wine, red wine, cheese, you name it, and there's no one coming to this open house, but it's in a gated elite community. So I guess my question would be, what do you suggest for something like that? It's in a gated community. They're allowed to let people in. It's kind of, I feel like, not in the middle of nowhere, but to me, it's in Richmond.
I have the same problem in Silent Shore and Lake Delbert, so put your signs out, here's my key. Take the guard a bottle of champagne, take your flyers to the guard so that they are, but it is tougher, and my area is prone to flood. I visit with all the agents in my subdivision, none of us are getting any showings, because right now, post immediately the photos of your house being high and dry during the flood, a testimonial about how the water never got to the street, as much as you can to talk about. It's better than ignoring it. I just hit it head on and say, this house was high and dry. You'll see that a lot in MLS or whatever, high and dry or whatever. Even some photos of something, a Google map of that week or something would be great to try and let people know that it did flood. But it is just going to be tougher during that time.
And you could do an event, you could do, you don't have to have a business page in order to do an event. You could do it as if you have an individual Facebook page or whatever. You could go set your open house up as an event.
I do post it on Facebook, but I haven't done it as an event.
You could do it as an event and let people know that, and let people invite other people to it, and you get an idea if people were interested in it or whatever. You might be able to reach some folks that you couldn't ordinarily. So you gotta kind of think outside of that. And then you may even just consider whether or not that's an area that it might be appropriate to do one on Thursday evenings.
Right.
Instead of on a Sunday afternoon. Sometimes, and those can be hit, that's gonna be a big bust, or they can be a big hit, so you just have to,
What's the whole neighborhood dry? The whole
Yeah,
neighborhood?
everything's dry.
Then is that in your
Neighborhood is
list?
dry.
What's the name of the neighborhood?
God, this is something
Well,
That's
what,
something on the
okay.
lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
North
Lakes-
Gate, whatever.
Lakes at Diamond Hill,
Yeah.
Richmond's high
I'll
and
try
dry
it.
neighborhood, like I would really pump the hell out of that, you know?
That's a good idea.
Let's wind up, because we have something else, but we're another question time. Also, you might, if you're doing something especially in this area, 610, you might just ask me what else is going on that you might talk about. Like if you're in Woodland Heights, their new crime statistics are for their constable program just for Woodland Heights. I give you the traffic management program just in Woodland Heights with the cushions and the traffic circles, and they're having a big meeting at Fogg Elementary. Even at Love over here, I mean, there is serious conversation going on about moving the Magnet and Vanguard programs from Travis, which are already quite successful, and putting them at Love, which has room for them and probably needs that. So there's a whole committee and parent trust going on. There's a movement on the school board to move it to Love, which would be a great impediment for that section of the Heights or whatever, which is kind of underperforming because of the school. So there's a lot of additional information going on. We might just even see where the CIP money's going on in your area of the city to see what's going on, especially the connection of the hike and bike trail. I mean, it's $20 million to connect this little section, basically really from getting you to Target over to TC Jester, under the new Yale Bridge and everything is going on there. I mean, so there's things that I think people want to know about. I don't have time to sit and write all these things, but I can point you in a direction if you just say, I'm doing an open house here in Mandel Place. Promote the new Manil director or whatever, or something's going on in their neighborhood, I assure you.
And there's one, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just
And I got
quick, I've just been told, I've been doing this 18 years, not to address crime, period.
I mean, statistics are statistics or whatever, and so what in my way of dealing with it is that the constable program is an enhancement addressing the issue of crime. So I don't want to necessarily go to the crime statistics, but a constable program is something that's positive. The one in Oak Forest, the one in Camp Logan, the one in Woodland Heights, I mean, I think they're enhancements. So I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this is an additional feature for this neighborhood.
Where they're adding, sorry, I'm ignorant, they're adding constables
That's
to tour the neighborhood.
That's correct.
So just maybe.
Because if people don't move there because of crime, I mean, this is something to say, here's what you do. You can get on their chat board if you buy a house in the neighborhood and visit with their next door, but here's their crime statistics and their constable program. It's an enhancement. River Oaks has an enhanced safety program.
Well,
So does Tanglewood, I mean, so does Upper Kirby. I mean, it's not uncommon for all inner city neighborhoods for people who are concerned. We're getting the Mandel Place constable program, and it's pretty common
And it
these
shows the
days.
cohesion of the neighborhood.
That's right. I think it's a positive aspect.
So I would say two things kind of to wrap up. One, you're not gonna get every single buyer who ever comes through your open house and recognize that, but you're gonna get a number of them if you do consistent follow-up. It's kind of like doing a BISBO. It's probably gonna take you about, very easy, it could take you 5 contacts or so in order to actually get that potential buyer or seller or whatever else. Most agents are gonna give up on 2. So if you do 3, you've already outpaced what the other agents are doing. And if you do that 4th and that 5th one, you very well may get that client or some other client in the future. And I've got a listing appointment a few months ago from somebody who did not buy a house from me 5 years ago, but that in an open house and wished every day since then, according to them, that they had. So that if we get ready to sell our house, we're not making a mistake again of not using it. So that was all just from an open house thing. And then 2, you set the attitude when those people come in. So rock that open house like that house is the belle of the ball, and like you're the belle of the ball. I tell potential buyers when they come in all the time, like sellers so often interview more than one agent when they get ready to sell their house. Buyers very rarely think about doing that. When you go to open houses, even if you don't like the house, have a conversation with that buyer and find out whether or not there's somebody that you respect, somebody that you trust, somebody you're willing to spend an hour or 2 in the car with. And so I make it a little funny, but I just know it's like, hey, you meet somebody and you're thinking, my God, the thought of spending an hour in a car with them and driving around makes me cringe, then it may not be right. So tell them you have, as a buyer, have a right to interview agents to represent you, and these open houses are a special opportunity to do that because it is to figure out whether I can buy the house.
I told somebody yesterday when I showed them a house, I said, I like to pick my buyers.
Right?
I did.
I don't
I
know what
liked
people are
them
like.
immediately. They were from Monterey, and they were just fantastic. He was an anesthesiologist and opening a pain clinic, and they were just, I've already texted them. I liked you immediately. I want when you get your address.
Good to know the pain doctor.
I used to always say, my buyers are people that I like. Not that they like me, that I like, because I can build rapport with people I like. And
We used to have a
always-
campaign before we became Boulevard Realty, was that people do business with people they like, you're gonna love doing business with us.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think this was good dialogue. Got one more little commercial. We have Danielle here who is going to tell us about a new magazine, Hunts Living Magazine, that's coming out very shortly. So I will turn it over to you and give us your 5 minutes spill.
I will. Hi, everyone. I was hoping I could put it up on the screen, but I can't, so we'll kind of do the small screen. Just quickly about myself, too. I have lived in the Heights for 10 years, and we just actually built a house right there at Harvard and 7th next to Donovan Park. So just moved over there and having all sorts of issues, but that's okay. So the company I work for is Into Publishing. I have my cards, and y'all might want to, I don't know, you can maybe kind of share a couple of these and follow along. I'll just do a quick little presentation for you all. There we go. So, Into Publishing has been in business since 2004, and basically what we try to achieve with our publications is turning neighborhoods into communities. Obviously, I'm a resident of the Heights, love the Heights, and when I first heard about this, I was like, oh, I don't know, there's so many local magazines, but what I'll go through in these slides will explain sort of the difference of what we do as a company. The company, as I said, was founded in 2004. The corporate headquarters are in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we currently, and that's a little bit of an older slide, but we're about 900 publications across the United States right now, and we're the 17th fastest growing private media company in the United States. We did well over $100 million last year and are on target to beat that this year. And so these slides kind of explain some of the reasons for the growth and why we operate differently. It's really user-generated content similar to Facebook. Why we say that is everything in our magazines, and I'll show you all some of the publications in just a sec. Everything in our magazines is written and contributed by residents. So they are the ones really creating the magazine for themselves, and it's all hyper local and really relevant to the Heights. Now, my publication will just go into the historic districts of East, West, and South. It's about, as y'all know, maybe 1,500 give or take households. And really, again, what we try and build on within the neighborhood is word of mouth. If you get a lot of word of mouth business, which obviously realtors do, it's trying to build on that within the community. And this is how we actually sort of achieve that. We really target, and you'll see there is a market map in the front of those folders. We have about 28 publications in Houston. We really only publish in a little bit more upscale, affluent, socially active neighborhoods. And the reason why we do that, we find it a little bit more difficult to reach through other methods with direct mail and those types of pieces, which obviously I know that makes sense for realtors as well. But usually our magazines are read cover to cover by the target market because they're interested in the stories about their kids, events in the neighborhood, pets, etc. And there's also varying levels of involvement from the community. So I'll have staff writers. I'm the publisher. I won't be creating the content. Again, it's all written and contributed by residents. They will receive a postcard prior to the first publication, which is August, informing them that this magazine will be coming. And we actually mail it directly to the residents. It's free to the residents. So, and it's only going to go into the single family households of those districts that I mentioned, not into the apartments in the area, and it is not distributed at businesses. So it's not something that people will just pick up at business. It is mailed directly to the residents. It is a private social publication strictly for the residents. This is another thing that really sets us apart. We do private events where we introduce our business partners to our residents. So it might be, I've already spoken to Ally over at Harold's, maybe doing like a restaurant review at the new tap room, invite the residents, and that would be a call out within the magazine. Again, I'll show you some of the publications really quickly here. Invite the residents, maybe 20 or 30 of them show up. Bill might show up, get to meet them face to face. You get to meet them face to face, sit down, have a nice meal with them, tell them what you do in a really just relaxed, comfortable setting. So it's, again, something else that really sets us apart. Some of the partnership options, and this is also what I think really makes Into Magazines unique, is we offer 36 issue packages, 24, 18, and 12. We like that consistency of issues because we really want to get you in that consideration set and when that resident is in their buying period. And again, as I said, I've lived in the neighborhood for a long time. I moved from Blair Street to Harvard. We lived at Blair for 10 years. I plan on living there forever. I don't know. Yeah. But our buying process, I went into multiple houses in the neighborhood. My buying process was maybe 3 years, and then we found a lot and built our house. And Rick Moon was our architect, and HDT Builders built our house. The whole buying process was a really long time, so that's why we offer these a little bit longer packages. We don't just do a one-off. Another thing that's great with the 36 and 24 is we offer a write-up on the business. You do not have to write that. It'll be written for you by a staff writer, or you can contribute that yourself. And another thing that really sets us apart is you can create unique ads that are relevant to the community. If there are your clients in the neighborhood and you want to have a picture of them with you, handing them the keys to their house, in front of their house, this is why I love Boulevard, this is why I love Bill, we can do that. Or obviously I know you'll have, if we can actually create the ads in North Carolina, or they can be done here. Okay, so that's kind of that. I'll show you a few of the publications if anyone would like to take a look. Here, Aaron, they're here. Did anybody have any questions on that?
You're currently doing it where? Where are they in the city?
They are in 28 neighborhoods in this city. We have Tanglewood, we have Southside Place, we have Headwood Village. A lot of them are in the Woodlands area. So within the loop, there's also Sweetwater. This is Southside Living.
Did you
This
turn
is
to Afton Oaks?
Sweetwater.
You did Afton Oaks, right?
Afton Oaks, yes. This is one that's just it's not in Houston, but it's just a good sample. We do Cinco. I don't think y'all do much in Cinco. Players, of course. But
When did you say you were starting this thing?
August should be the first issue.
And why not Woodland Heights too?
The reason why is we just haven't moved into that area yet. If we do, it has been approved by our company as an area to publish, and it's just finding the person to do it. If not myself, it possibly could be rolled into what I'm currently doing, but I think it actually warrants its own publication.
What about Bel Air? What about Bel Air and Westview?
Those are being looked at right now. We have Southside Place, but not all of Westview or Bel Air at this point. Again, the company in Houston started a lot more sort of outlying and is just starting to move a little bit more inside of the loop, and so those areas are being identified right now.
You have a rate for
Tanglewood, yes. Tanglewood, we do have, the first publication for Tanglewood is actually this month, and it's beautiful. I don't have it yet, but when I do, does anybody else need to see one?
So how many realtors? We only have one realtor.
Okay, yes, so Caroline Schlimmer with Greenwood King has bought the real estate resource page for 2 years.
But it's the same.
But she is the only realtor I have right now in the magazine. We don't offer exclusivity, but as a group, I do have the centerfold. It's those 2 pages. I don't know how y'all actually do this, and Aaron can probably help direct that as well, but I also have opportunity. We have maybe home of the month, yard of the month, sponsorship opportunity. I'm probably not going to do the yard of the month. I'm probably going to do, because it's the Heights, a porch of the month. Because I think it's really
I
fun.
think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Right. I have a front porch where I live, and I
Right.
love to sit out.
Right, and our new house, we have a new 300 square foot screen porch that looks at Donovan Park, and Houston is kind of a thing in the Heights and, rather than the yards, so I'm trying to, and that's the thing about the magazines too, because everything is written and contributed by the residents, each of the magazines and each of the publications really take on the flavor of that particular neighborhood and those residents. So I think that's, again, what makes it really neat. And I, taking this on, I knew there were lots of publications in Houston, and I sort of hesitated with this, and I had worked for 6 years, and, but I know I'm going to be in this community, and I'm right in the heart of the historic district, and, I think it's actually a really cool thing. So, I appreciate y'all's time. I have my cards, and,
Both prices.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take a break, we'll regroup right before noon for the last.